So then, like, what is the what about the career opportunities?
Yes.
So like we'll be discussed one by one anyhow. So no, first of all, if you learn to Oracle DBA, you should not know any kind of any programming language like Java, .NET, C, C++, whatever maybe it is. The only prerequisite for learning the Oracle DBA, you should be aware with the basic hardware knowledge, or you can say computer knowledge. Basic computer knowledge you should have. So this is the only thing you should know for doing the Oracle DBA. There is no criteria for like eligibility criteria for doing the Oracle DBA, like what you can say they should be belong from CSC or any branch. It could be from any branch, like from electronics, BCom, BA, commerce, whatever maybe it is. So first of all, if you want to learn the Oracle DBA, two things you have to learn before starting the Oracle database.
Okay.
Two things you have to know. What are the two things you have to know? So like you have to know about the SQL language. You know, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. This is the basic structured query language. We call it as Structured Query Language, whatever maybe it is. You know, basically, if you want to interact with any person or anybody, you should know any one language. Like it has, this is a language. It's a type of language. It's a structured query language. There is no programming like that. You don't have any programming, like any kind of programming in this language. So this is the only prerequisite you have to learn. You have to know first prerequisite for learning the Oracle DBA. If you have a basic knowledge of SQL, then that's very good. If you don't have, I'll give you these sessions, SQL basics. So it's not an issue. Then the second thing, you have to know about the Linux or Unix, whatever maybe it is. So most of the database servers which will be run on your Linux or Unix operating system. You should know about the Linux and Unix. So you know, so Linux is it's nothing but it's an operating system. It's a OS. Linux or Unix, whatever maybe it is, it's an operating system.
Yes.
So no. So what is the main difference between Linux and Windows? Why you have to learn about the Linux? You should not do any kind of administration for Linux and Unix. You should know about the basics of Linux. So that part I'll be covering. You don't need to worry about that thing. So what are the main things are the Linux? What is the difference between Linux and Unix? So
you mean I don't need to know the admin side you're talking about, right?
Just no, you don't need to know. Yes. What is the shell and the basic things? What are the commands are there for managing the operating system? You should know installation part. And then basic commands, these part you have to know. This is the only two things are the prerequisites for learning the Oracle database. So you know, yes.
Another one quick question: do I need to know any like a server side knowledge, like how the server works and like idea?
No need to know anything like that. But if you're working with somewhere environment, then you have to know like. There is a different types of servers are there, you know, HPX, IBM, what you can say, IBM's having its own servers and HP having its own servers. You should know, you should be familiar about the servers which are using the organizations, server names. So basically whatever the things will be learned in this environment, the same thing you have to perform when you go for any organization or in any company, whatever maybe it is. Okay. So now, if you look at the Linux and Unix, you know, what is the main difference between the Linux and Unix and Windows? So, you know, Windows basically it's a totally graphical. You know, you are very familiar with the Windows operating system. If you want to use, you know, 90% of Windows is totally, what you can say, around 95% your Windows is GUI, graphical user interface.
Yes.
So, but at the same thing, if you look at with Linux or Unix, you know, Linux and Unix, and the Linux and Unix, if you look at 90%, it is a CUI, what you can say, CLI, command line user interface. That's why you need to learn about the Linux commands. So here, let's say example, if in Windows, if you want to create any directory, what you have to do, just right click, create directory, folder, right click, create folder. It's a very simple. So like in this Linux, we are having different commands for creating the directories, for creating the mount points. There is something called, these things you have to know. That things I'll be teach you, no need to worry. But SQL you have to study yourself.
Okay.
Okay, anyhow. So now So if you look at what is exactly Oracle database, from the scratch will be discussed. Basically, this is the mainly two things you have to know for learning the Oracle database. You could be belong from it. You could be belong from any background. It doesn't matter. It may be electronics. It could be BA, BCom, whatever. There is a no eligibility criteria method for doing the Oracle DBA. This is the first thing you should be clarified. You should not know any kind of languages like Java, C, C++, .NET, whatever maybe it is. Okay. Now, if you look at the diagrammatically, what is exactly Oracle database and how looks the Oracle database? What are the things we have to study? I'll be showing you by drawing the basic picture here. Okay. Now here, so for what is Oracle, for understanding the what is Oracle database, you should see like what you can call it as this basic picture. I will draw this basic picture. Just look at this picture. You know, first of all, something we call it as a three-tier architecture. There is something called three-tier architecture. Three-tier architecture. So when I'll be explaining more in detail when we are doing the classes. If you're interested, then. So just look at this picture. Basic picture you have to know. So what is exactly database? It will be comes in the picture. No exactly what you can say. Just wait. I'm writing in short three-tier architecture. Yes. Okay. Now let's look at here. Let's say three-tier architecture means basically. So I'm dividing into the three groups here. So now here, so where database will becomes, database always will be defined like this. You know, container. Always database will be defined like this in container. So now one thing I forget. By using the SQL language, what we can do? We can create the tables. We can insert the data in structured format, tables. Whatever the data which will be there in the form of tables, the data will be stored where? In these database. Always will be defined like this database container. So whatever the data which will be there, how it will be there in the form of tables. You can see in the form of tables. In the form of tables, whatever the data is there, it will be stored in these tables. You know, they will be discussed. You know, here this is basically we call it as this backend we call it as basically we call it as database server. Sometimes database server, or somebody they'll be say DB tier, whatever maybe it is, the same thing, database server. You know, if you look at the same thing, this is middle tier. This is called as a middle tier. This is called as middle tier. Sometimes it is called as web tier, whatever maybe it is. Web tier. Sometimes it is called as apps tier. Same name, whatever maybe it is. Apps tier. You know, the apps tier. It could be any application. It could be any application. Like you can say SAP. You can say PeopleSoft. You can say these are the applications which are available in market. PeopleSoft. Let's say you can say like that Oracle WebLogic Server. This is the product of Oracle WebLogic Server. WLS. I'm writing in chart. Oracle WebLogic Server. Yeah. It could be JD Edwards. Any application server. JD Edwards. I'm writing in these application names. JD Edwards. Like you're having an application called like Oracle WebLogic Server, JD Edwards. It could be Oracle Application Server. Yes, I'm writing in short everything. So it could be any application.
Yes.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Okay.
No problem.
Now here, three-tier architecture, middle-tier services. What we are having, there are in basically middle-tier. It could be web-tier, apps tier. Sometimes it is called as SAP, PeopleSoft, Oracle WebLogic Server, JD Edwards. It could be Oracle Application Server. It could be any application server. Who will be access the database? Basically, the database which will be accessed, we call it as what we call it as. So here we call it as a client tier. This is a client tier. Client tier. So client tier means basically, if you look at the example client tier, let's say if you took the bank application, if they wanted to access a database, they used to use any application SAP. The backend will be, it could be Oracle database, it could be Syllabus database, it could be DB2 database, any database. We are talking about Oracle database. Oracle is the world's #1 database as one of the survey which is called as a Gartner survey. So anyhow, that thing is later on. So this is called as basically client tier. If you want to access a database, if you want to access user this database, so application user, they need what we need. They need a basic browser. So they need any certified browser here if they want to access. So whatever maybe it is, just I'm drawing roughly here. So anyhow, so they need any basic browser. You can say browser, whatever maybe it is. So now, so let's say banking application. So if you want to insert a certain information, when we go for any bank, they used to insert some transactions related information. If you deposit a money, they'll be insert some data. Okay, obviously there is nowadays everything is online. So if something is there, they'll be use this application. Look at like a railway reservation. If you look at that, so if they want to book a ticket, they'll be use any front-end application, front-end browser. By using a browser, they used to access the database internally. So we cannot see the database which they are in. Our job as a DBA, what we have to perform? You have to perform these database related operations. We have to take care about totally. We have to take care about what thing? We have to take care about this thing. We have to take care about totally this thing. So how to protect this database? We are not concerned about this application type. We are not concerned about the client type. We are concerned about which type? This database type. We have more concern about this database. What are the components are there inside this database? Main components. There is something called, there are main services of database. There is something called services are there in database. We have to know about that services. Services of database like, there is something called listener. You can say like instance. These are the services of database. We have to study more about these services. While you are running the course, we will be study about this more about these. What is listener? What is instance? We have to know about this basic terminology. Just I'm explaining. So these are the main services of database. You have to learn more about these services. There are many components are there in these database. Whatever the data which will be stored in the form of, it will be stored in the tables. Again, this tables data, which will be stored in the form of what you can say. It will be stored in the form of, like you can say, there is something called table spaces. There is something called table spaces. We'll be discuss more about this when you are doing the classes. There is something called table spaces. So inside table spaces, whatever the tables are there, which will be stored inside this table space. Again, you'll be finding something called data file. That's the internal things. We'll be discuss more in detail. Even if you won't understand anything, just ignore this. Just I'm explaining the terminology. This is related to database. Okay. Now inside this table spaces, there is something called data files are there. Something called data files. Ultimately, your data will be stored where in your data files. So whatever maybe it is. Inside table space, your data files is there. That inside the data file, data will be stored. So whatever maybe it is. No, we are not concerned about these tables. Even the tables is going to develop. Who is going to develop this? Developers. There is a two jobs are there. Oracle database administrator, Oracle database developer. The developer is going to take care about this, developing the tables, whatever maybe this inside this container. I have written here this database. Let's say take it as a prod database. So always will be defined like this only database. Anytime, will be build how to build this server. We will be talk about more about this part only. We will be talk more about this part. We will not talk about these. We will not talk about these. We will not talk about this. Okay. So we'll be talk about this part. So how to build this scratch from, we'll be see from the scratch anyhow. So now you will find many types of databases in organizations. Let's say we are defining here prod. So why it is a prod means production database. The live data which is entering the clients, what you can call it as application people, the data which will becomes to where? Your production database. And apart from that, you'll be find many databases, like you'll be find the different databases, like you can say test database, you'll be find UAT, something called user acceptance test. These are the different names you should be see when you go for any organization. You'll be find development database, you'll be find stage instance. There are different types of data. So basically, the live data which is yes.
Sorry, can I ask you one quick question?
Yes, you can.
said on the database wise that is two job role. One is DBA and one is the developer, right?
Yes, yes.
So what is the developer does? They just create the tables you're talking about and all these things?
No, they used to develop a new schemas, new objects, new data, new tables. If the requirement comes in new tables, they'll be use also SQL language. SQL is a common for developer and the database administrator.
Okay,
SQL
but
language.
also PL/SQL or just the SQL?
SQL extension of SQL is a PL/SQL.
Okay.
So if you know the SQL, PL/SQL, that will be very good for you. If you know as a DBA, main performance tuning issues come from the SQL level. That means a development, if they'll do mistakes while developers doing, so main performance issues will become to the application. So for that purpose, if you know the SQL and the PL/SQL in a very strong, that will be very good for you. Even if you don't know, if you should have the good knowledge about the SQL, you can manage if you know the SQL.
Okay.
So SQL is a common for developer and DBA. As a DBA, as a developer, common. It's interacting for the database. Without SQL, you cannot interact with the Oracle database.
Yes.
Anyhow, this is the basic picture what I have shown you here. So if you look at, we'll be studying more about which part, this part. We'll be studying about this part. So I'll be discuss about this part. What are the things we are going to study inside this part? So exactly, I'm not explaining any type of subject. Just I'm defining what is DBA, who can do, how it looks like. Okay.
Yes.
Now just look at here. First of all, prerequisites. You understand what you have to know. SQL and Linux. You have to know. This is the main prerequisite. So then anyhow, so then what you have to know? You have to you'll be learn more about. So will be discussed from how to build the Oracle database server from the scratch, right? Like say you can say from the operating system installation. I'll be showing you from the operating system installation, like OEL5, how to install the operating system. Then we'll install the database software. So then we have to study about the database architecture. So it maybe takes 5 to 6 sessions. 5 to 6 sessions only for architecture. You can say 5 to 6 sessions only for discussing the architecture. 5 to 6, it maybe takes 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. I cannot say exactly based on the concept. We will not skip anything. We'll be go from the scratch, very basic level. So now we have to take these sessions. First, you should be thorough with the database architecture. We'll be go through with database architecture, how data will be flows when a client inserts a data. So when a user files a query, what happens internally, how data will be flows, and then what are the main components of architecture, components of Oracle database architecture. That part will be studied more in detail in architecture. Even I'll give you that what we can call it as brochure, what we are going to cover. Okay.
Yes.
Now then, and the second most important thing, you have to know administration part. Database administration has been categorized. Administration actually it has categorized into 2 types. Administration. You can say routine task. Sometimes you need to perform the routine task and non-routine task. Routine task and non-routine task. You can say routine task and the non-routine task, database administration. Second one, non-routine task. If you look at the database administration, what are the tasks you have to perform as a DBA? First of all, we need to perform basic level. You have to learn after architecture. How to manage these what you can call it as table spaces. Apart from that, there is important files which will be there inside the database, control files, and there is something called redo log files. We'll be discuss each and every file. What is the importance of this file? How to manage these files? How to add, delete, whatever it is. Practically, we'll be see these things theoretically as well as practically. So we have to manage these table spaces, control files, schedule log files. These are the basic things we have to know as a DBA before starting the database, after completion of database architecture. Then we'll move the topic called like, there is a user management. User management. We have to create the database user. Sometimes the requirement may becomes as a DBA, if the request comes from the application side, we need to create the database users. So this is exactly we call it as database user management, DB user management. So we have to create the database users. So how to create that users, how to assign the privileges for that users, that part completely will be seen when you're doing the classes. Okay. Now, so then, and the most important thing, there is something called networking. This is not networking. This is a Oracle networking. This is a Oracle networking. What is the use of Oracle networking here now? So if you want to connect, client means application to database. If you want to do connectivity between application to database. So how to do this connectivity? By using a Oracle networking we have to do. As a DBA, we have to make sure that networking should be there. Networking is not like a system networking. It's a database networking. Oracle networking. Just now I discussed like here, there's some service called listener here. I discussed the service called listener here. This is a service. Like we have to create the listener sometimes. So this listener will be accepts the connections which is coming from your application side. So we'll be studying more about this networking part. That means how to do the connectivity. Not only application to database, we have to see connectivity from database to database. How to do the connectivity from database to database. If you want to interact one database to other database, there should be between the networking between the two databases. How to do that networking? So that means how to create a listener. There is something called DNS. This part will be discussed clear in more detail when you are doing the classes. Anyhow. So now, in the most important part, you have to learn about the backup and recovery. So there is something called tool, RMAN. This is a database Oracle software inbuilt tool. You don't need to install any separate software for getting this tool. So RMAN, there is a tool called RMAN. RMAN stands for Recovery Manager. Basically, RMAN stands for Recovery Manager. By using this tool, we have to do the backup. We have to perform backups. You can say recovery. You have to perform the restore if you have lost. What we have to restore? Data, what we have lost. We have to take the backup data which is coming to the database. So how to take that backup? If you lost, how to recover that? If you lost, how to restore from the backup? That things we have to learn more about this RMAN. It also takes more sessions, 4 to 5 sessions it will be take for the RMAN, for doing the RMAN. 4 to 5 sessions it will be takes for doing the RMAN. In RMAN itself, we have to do something called cloning. There is something called cloning. What does it mean by cloning? Cloning means
like copy,
creating a copy of any, technically speaking, if you say cloning means creating a copy of production database server. Suppose, let's say example, this diagram. Let me take this diagram. So let's say if you are having the production database, if developers they want a development database, we will not give the developers directly this database. So what we have to do? We have to perform the cloning of this database, same database. We have to perform a clone of this database. We have to perform a clone. Then we have to hand over this dev database to the developers for developing any new schemas, developing any new objects, whatever they want, they can develop by using this. So this, let's say this is a dev. Just I'm defining by the example dev. If they want dev database, will not give this production. Will be clone this database and then we'll give this database by doing the cloning. There is some, it is a very important thing, cloning. So we have to perform. Now look at here. The cloning, it will become some non-routine task. We will not do the cloning daily. We will not do the cloning weekly once. If the requirement comes, then we have to perform the cloning. The requirement may be coming once in a month, thrice in a month, what you can say, you can quarterly for once. So it may be depends on company to company. We have to perform the cloning. You have to know how to do the cloning, what are the steps for the cloning. That part will be discussed practically hands-on while doing the cloning RMAN classes itself. It's a very important as a DBA. RMAN, whatever I am discussing, these are the very important concepts for the DBA. If you are working as a DBA, means you should be more thorough with the RMAN. Then you can survive anywhere as a DBA. So now then we have to learn there is something called logical backups. There is something called logical backups. Logical backups, sometimes it is also calling as data pump utilities. Data pump utilities. These are the course contents which will be discussed more in detail. I am telling about these things. Utilities, data pump utilities. Utilities. There is something called EXPDP, IMPDP, export import. From export import, this is called IMPDP. Now look at the example. So when we have to use these utilities, we can say when we have to use these utilities. Suppose look at this diagram. I have done the cloning at when 2 p.m. I have done the cloning. So now like the time is 5 p.m. Whatever the data which is coming from my what you can call it as here, coming from the user, so which is coming to this production database. No? So now
Yes.
we have done the cloning at 2 p.m. but it is out of sync. Once we have done the cloning, there is no synchronization between production and development. We don't have any synchronization between production and development. So now we have to perform refreshment. This is also called as database refreshment. It is also called as database refreshment. Refreshment. So we have to perform the refreshment by using the export import. Once you have done the cloning, then we have to perform export and then import whatever the data which is coming from here to there. Okay. Now this is called as data pump utilities. Whatever utilities, we'll be discussed more in detail how to use the data pump, how to do the export import, how to do refreshment. Apart from that, there is a technology called flashback technology. What is the use of this flashback technology? As I told you, whatever the data which will be stored where in the form of tables. If you have dropped one table, particularly somebody has been by mistakenly the table has got dropped, what we have to do? We will be lost all the data. How to get back this dropped table? There is a technology called flashback. So how to get back the tables, whatever the rows which you have deleted incidentally. So that thing will be discussing flashback technology more in detail. So in each and every session, completely detail will be discussed. Just I'm discussing the topics, how it will be there. Then there is a concepts called, will be see apart from that, patching. Exactly, patches or patching. You can say patching. So we have to perform the patching on Oracle RDBMS software. Every software in this world having the bugs, BUG bug, defects. So like
yes.
Oracle software also, it may be having some bugs. How bugs will be there? Due to the defect in code. While writing the code, they may have any defects. To fix the bugs, we have to apply the patches. As a DBA, we need to apply the patches. When you are working with the 3+, 4+ years of experience, 5+, whatever maybe it is, DBA, we have to apply the patches. How to apply the patches? What are the types of patches? When you have to do the patching, that steps completely will be discussed in patching classes. So where we'll apply the patches? We'll apply the patches in these database software, not in database. Basically, we'll apply the patches on software for fixing the bugs. That part will be discussed in patching classes anyhow. So then we'll be seeing hands-on upgradation. Upgradation means, the latest version in the market, 11G release 2 is the latest version. Even 12C has got released. We'll be see hands-on upgradation, how to upgrade from 10G release 2 to 11G release 2. This is the previous version. We see hands-on how to upgrade from 10G to 11G. So what are the steps involved in the upgradation? How to do the upgradation? Step by step, will we see this thing. Apart from that, there are many topics. I'm defining in short. I cannot explain in a 1 hour, half an hour, all things. That's why I'm explaining these things we are going to discuss. Okay. Now, then we'll see like that upgradation. After upgradation, we'll be see more about the performance tuning. There is something called ASM, Automatic Storage Management. ASM stands for Automatic Storage Management. The name itself, it is indicating Automatic Storage Management. How to manage automatically the storage without involving the system administrators by using a ASM file system. That part will be discussed in ASM. ASM is also, you can say this is advanced topics. If you know the ASM, RMN, upgradation, these are the topics which are looking the companies, those who are having the good strong command on these concepts. What I'm telling these concepts. No, apart from that ASM, there is something called data guard. Have you ever heard about the data guard?
No.
You know, data guard is nothing but like as a bodyguard. You know, bodyguard, Salman Khan bodyguard, like it has a data guard in database. You know, like here, you know, suppose let's look at this example. Suppose my production database is running in somewhere in Hyderabad, let's say, example.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what will be do? This production database, copy of this production database will be keep somewhere geographically somewhere same this transactional equally copy in somewhere in, let's say, in USA, somewhere will be keep same copy. I'm not just I'm
Yes.
moving the cursor. Will be keep somewhere in USA somewhere. So what is the
Yes.
purpose? Let's say I'll be keep this same database. I'll be create replica. I'll be keep it here. You know, if this let's say if this production database is gone due to any disaster, or you can say like anything happened to this, something happened to this incidentally some disaster occurred, this database is lost. So now clients cannot access the database. So for that purpose, immediately we have to switch over to USA. So they can access some data will be lost here. So for protecting the disaster from the disaster recovery, we have to configure data guard. So that's why it is a name itself, it is data guard. Cloning is different from data guard. Cloning is for duplicating, development, testing, DAT. Data guard is for disaster recovery. So now we'll see the hands-on how to configure this data guard. So how to configure, how to do switchover failover, how to configure, and then there is something called how to switch over. These are the topics which we have to discuss. Technically, I'm talking these all technical terms. How to do switchover. There is something called failover. So we'll discuss more about this data guard. No, then apart from that, like we are having a data guard. You know, you know, performance tuning. It's the most important area for the DBA. Performance tuning. Whether it could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. Performance tuning is a common for the DBAs. There are different types of tunings are there. Different types of tunings, like you can say reactive tuning. You can say there is a tuning called proactive tuning. These are the types of tunings. Proactive tuning. So we have to perform reactive tuning as well as perform. What does it mean by tuning? You know, tuning means adjustment, doing something adjustment for improving the performance. Exactly, tuning means adjustment. We have to do the adjustments in database for improving the performance of database. Exactly. So we discuss more in detail performance tuning, how to improve the performance doing the tuning. What are the types of tunings, how to do that performance. In performance tuning, there are topics called AWR report, ADDM, how to generate these reports. There is a report called dash report, how to interpret this, you know, how to trace a particular query. That things will be discussed in more in detail, how to trace a query. If user says query is running slow, how to trace a query. This part will be discussed, what you can call it as evaluating the performance tuning classes. So then, very good demand for performance tuning also. So now then we have to study about after performance tuning, like troubleshooting also, basic troubleshooting. Whatever I have got the issues, whatever the issues will be get the basically troubleshooting also will be discussed. I mean, what are the
Anurbai, when you say how to trace a query, that means what query is running at this moment to the database, right?
Yes, okay.
This is what you mean by that? How to trace a query?
Yeah, how to trace a query means, suppose if user is running a query, suppose if some application user he's running a query, he's running a report something query. So what happens? Query previously took 5 minutes. Let's say 10, like it's say 30 seconds. Now it is taking 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yes.
So what you have to do? You have to trace that query, why it is running slow. We have to look at that. Does it taking the more resources? Does it be problem with the hard parsing? There is something called hard parsing, soft parsing. That part will be discussed in detail architecture classes. You know, does it going for hard parsing? Does it taking for more resources? Does it taking for more CPU core cycles? That part we have to know.
Okay.
You know, then we have to learn about the troubleshooting, basic troubleshooting. If your database is getting hanged, what could be the reasons for hanging this database? So how to gather? There is something called hang analysis. You can gather the hang analysis, and we can give for the Oracle support people. They'll be help you if your database is hanging. So how to? There is a simple thing when go for organization. You'll be learn about the SR. There is a option called service request. We have to raise the SR. So we have to gather the hang analysis. How to gather that hang analysis? If instance is hanging, in very rare cases it will be happens. You know, if you lost something in your database, how to get back that corrupted things. So that part will be discussed in troubleshooting part. Okay.
Okay.
Now After the troubleshooting, we'll be go for the, there is a, again I'll show you like there is topic called Golden Gate. Golden Gate also having good demand, separate course is there, Golden Gate. But anyhow, I'll give you the knowledge about the Golden Gate, how Golden Gate works, internal architecture, and then how to configure Golden Gate, how to configure Golden Gate, how to configure Golden Gate. So this part we'll be discussing.
What is that? No, by Golden Gate one.
Yeah, see, Golden Gate actually basically, it is a replication software. Suppose in my organization, I may have the many platform of database. Like you can say, I have my Oracle database, I have a MySQL server, I have a Sybase, I have a DB2. I may have the many types of databases. If I want to replicate the data in heterogeneous environment, you can say like heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means Oracle to Sybase, Oracle to MySQL server. You can replicate the data from any database to any database. This is exactly this is a replication software.
Oh.
By using this, you can replicate the data. This is the main use of Golden Gate. I hear that in USA there is a good requirement for Golden Gate DBS. Separately, they are looking for Golden Gate DBS. When you can learn this Golden Gate, when you know about perfectly DBA, then you can take separate course for Golden Gate. Anyhow, that's a secondary thing. What I'm telling this Golden Gate, if you study more about Golden Gate, then it will be good benefit for you. Whatever the things which will be covered, which is the very most useful and important things we are going to cover. RMN. If you look at the RMN, ASM, data guard, Golden Gate, performance tuning, the companies and the guys, they are looking for those who are having expertise in these areas. Inshallah, when you do all these things, you should become expertise. Or will be go with theoretically, practically, theory, practical, and so will be so everything practically. Through VMware, we can perform all these things. On VMware, on top of VMware, you can perform all these things. So whatever will be learn the things here in the virtual environment, same thing you have to perform when you go for any organization. That's same, 100% same. You cannot say different, but there will be find the servers. You cannot see the servers. You cannot see any server when you go for any organization. Just you have to work from the PC. So there will be VPN, whatever maybe it is. Different types of terminology will be used. They may be use the advanced tools for monitoring. They may be use that will be different. When you go for any organization, within a week you'll be understand what is the environment. When you learn all these things perfectly, inshallah.
Yeah, okay.
Anyhow, I'll be end up with this demo. If you're having any queries, you can ask me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know why the SQL loader. You have anything to do with the DBA side? SQL loader.
Yes, we can perform. I'll be cover that thing also. SQL loader, huh? Yeah, I'll be cover that SQL loader. SQL loader is a basic utility. It's a utility tool, you can say. SQL loader. Basically, you should know for the developers. We have to for loading data into the database. For loading data into database, which will be there in the form of text, in the form of files, DAT format. Loading data into database. I'll be cover this thing also, loading to worry, because I cannot mention each and everything here. I'll be take architecture itself 1 week, 5-6 days. I cannot see each and everything. If I'll be say it will take 2-3 hours.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I know. Okay. What is the a job opportunity wise, like salary wise, opportunity wise? So what is this in USA for a DBA?
Yeah, here that there is having a good opportunities for DBS in USA. Those who are having the good command and like the concepts like you are having the RMN and you can say like ASM and the data guard. These are the advanced topics. When you keep it 4 years, 5 years experience, you should have the perfection in these areas. Then you can easily crack the interview. Even for Golden Gate also there is having good demand. Even if you'll be mentioned, I am having a good knowledge on Golden Gate, like configuration, architecture concepts, whatever maybe it is you study, that part you can easily crack it. There is a good opportunities as for DBA if you look at 4+, 5+. But you should be expertise in which areas? RMN, data guard, ASM, performance tuning, and Golden Gate. So these are the main things we have to what you can call it as expertise in these areas. So you have to go through not only classroom sessions, you have to study more about yourself. I cannot cover in 1 hour whole things. Whatever I'll give you the hint, based on that you have to more explore yourself subject, then you'll be get, inshallah, definitely we get easily get the job. That's not a big issue. Even if you need any help regarding, I'll be guide you that thing regarding interview, whatever maybe it is.
Okay. You gonna like give me any PDF book or something regarding the DBA book, anything, or
Sorry.
any PDF book on DBA, like, or
Yes, sir. We have a lot of books. We have a lot of books for DBA, not a single book. For beginners, there is a book called Database Administrator Expert Oracle Levinji Database Administration by the author Sam Alapati. I'll be tell you that books. What are the books you need to refer for? Each and every topic having its own book. For RMN, there is a separate book. For Data Guard, there is a separate book. For ASM, there is a separate book. For performance tuning, separate book. You cannot study all these books. So the purpose is we need to get the job.
Yeah.
Understand? Now on that manner, whatever I'll be teach you, inshallah, definitely that will be helpful for your interview. See, in spite of reading that 100 books, by taking the training, you should be able to handle. You should be capable to. You should be what we can call it as give in a situation like giving interview.
Okay.
Okay. So what are the things you need to study, the materials, that thing I'll be guiding. No need to worry about that thing. So what are the books you need to look at for that particular topic? I'll be giving materials also, whatever you need, whatever I'm having, the important documents which is related for the more about the DBA.
Okay.
Okay. So you have any queries, you can ask me.
Okay, no, I'm good. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Remember,